Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving deep today into something that, well, it trips up pretty much everyone, right? Procrastination.
Absolutely. That feeling of putting things off.
But is it really just about, feeling lazy? We've been digging into some source material from the 5-second rule, chapter 11 specifically.
And the insights there, based on the research presented, they're actually pretty eye-opening.
Yeah, genuinely surprising stuff. So our mission here in this deep dive is to figure out what procrastination really is.
Which the source argues might be the opposite of what we usually think.
Exactly, and figure out its, surprising root cause. And most importantly, explore this framework the source gives us.
Using the hashtag 5-second rule, right, to actually tackle it.
Yeah. And get ready, because right off the bat, this chapter challenges some really common ideas about why we put things off.
Big misconceptions. Turns out we might have been kind of wrong about a lot of it.
Definitely. The research the author found, yeah, well, it apparently shocked them.
Uh-huh. And it defines procrastination in a way you might not expect. It's not just one single thing.
Right. The source says there are actually two kinds. Two distinct types.
Two kinds. Okay, that's already different. Most people just lump it all together.
Totally. And here's where it gets really interesting. The first kind they talk about is productive procrastination.
Productive? How can procrastination be productive? That sounds backward.
I know, right? But the source cites research saying this type, well, maybe you shouldn't feel guilty about it. It can actually be good.
Good how?
Especially for creative work. The idea is when you step away from a creative project, maybe even set it aside on purpose for a bit.
Okay.
It gives your mind space to wander, allows for what they call divergent ideas. Your brain isn't just stuck on one track, it explores different possibilities.
So it's not laziness, it's like incubation,
Yeah.
letting ideas simmer.
Exactly. The author talks about writing the book itself, hitting writer's block, feeling burnt out, thinking, oh, I'm just lazy.
Yeah, I can imagine that feeling.
But they realized, for a big creative thing like a book, the process needed that time, those breaks. It took, 7 months longer?
Wow, okay.
But they say the end result was 100 times better because of the ideas that popped up during that off time.
That's a powerful reframe. So for you listening, if you're working on something creative, no super tight deadline,
Right.
that feeling of putting it off might actually be part of the process. Letting it sit could make it smarter.
Could be, but that's just one kind. The other kind, this is probably what we all wrestle with, is destructive procrastination.
Okay. That sounds more familiar. The kind where you're actively avoiding stuff that really needs to get done.
Yeah, and there'll be negative consequences if you don't do it. This is the habit the source warns. That causes real problems.
We all have those tasks, don't we? The examples in the source, they're so relatable.
Totally. Updating photo albums.
Yeah.
That spreadsheet you dread.
Yeah.
Finishing a proposal. Cleaning out the garage.
Oh, the garage. Or that massive business to-do list. It's deliberately dodging the thing you know needs doing.
And the impact can be pretty significant. They shared Evelyn's story. She felt like she'd questioned everything about myself for years because of this avoidance cycle.
Wow, that's heavy.
But when she started using the framework from the book, she said it was amazing. It gave her the power to push past that self-doubt, and actually get things done.
Okay, so if destructive procrastination isn't just laziness, the source is really clear on that, saying, boy, were we wrong, and it's not a form of laziness at all.
Right.
Then what is driving it? What's the real reason?
This is where they bring in the research, especially from Dr. Timothy Peichel. He studied this for ages, like nearly 20 years.
Okay, so what did he find?
He found the main driver isn't avoiding the work itself. It's deeper. It's avoiding stress.
Avoiding stress. But wait, doesn't not doing the work create more stress later? That seems like a bad trade.
It's a total paradox. But in the moment, the source explains, procrastination is this subconscious desire to feel good right now.
Like an instant gratification thing. Little escape.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Seeking a little stress relief immediately. And people who struggle often feel out of control, right? The source suggests maybe they are right about that feeling because they don't get why they're doing it.
And it's not always stress about the task itself. It could be bigger life stress.
That's a huge point they make, yeah. Money worries, relationship problems.
Yeah.
Just feeling overwhelmed by life in general.
Okay, that makes sense. So deciding to scroll Instagram for 15 minutes instead of tackling that report.
It feels like a mini stress break from all that other bigger stress you're carrying around.
Gotcha. The source uses this great analogy. It's like emotional eating, but for your mind.
Yeah. Avoiding the hard thing gives you relief, and doing something fun, like watching cat videos or whatever.
Gives you that quick dopamine hit, that feel-good chemical boost.
But like you said, it's a trap. Because the relief is temporary. The work piles up, the bigger stress is still there.
And now you have more stress because the deadline is closer or the pile is bigger. It's a vicious cycle.
Totally. Scott's story in the source really nails this. PhD student, right? Major money stress from school, married, new baby, a lot going on.
Yeah, that's a pressure cooker.
And he found himself just avoiding his lab work, missing deadlines, letting people down, which of course made him feel terrible because he had high standards for himself. His confidence just tanked.
And the source connects this back to the stress, right? His procrastination at the lab wasn't about the lab work itself, fundamentally.
Exactly. It was his subconscious trying to get a tiny bit of relief from the crushing financial stress at home. Those little escapes gave him a quick mood boost, a feeling of control over something, just for a moment.
Even while the bigger picture was getting worse. Man, that's tough.
So, okay, if the root is stress avoidance, how do you break that cycle? This is where the source lays out a framework. 3 simple steps backed by research.
And the hashtag 5-second rule comes in as the tool, right? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, do the steps.
Exactly. Step 1, forgive yourself.
Forgive yourself. Okay, that sounds nice, but they call it science.
Not just, warm fuzzies. They cite Dr. Peichel again. He co-authored a study.
What did it show?
It showed that students who actually forgave themselves for procrastinating on one assignment were way less likely to procrastinate on the next one.
Really? Why does forgiving yourself work? How does that break the cycle?
Well, think about it. Procrastinators, the source says, are often super hard on themselves. Like constant self-criticism.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Guilt, shame.
Exactly. And what do guilt and shame create? More stress. Which, as we just established, is the driver for procrastination.
So the self-blame actually feeds the beast. Forgiveness interrupts that loop.
Precisely. It breaks that specific negative cycle. Trishke's story in the source, she said forgiving herself basically changed her life. Stopped the procrastination.
Wow. And Ryan, the guy starting a business.
Yeah, he felt intense fear of failure. He found that just being honest about the struggle, acknowledging it, was his path to forgiveness. His mantra was, win or lose, at least I'm doing something.
That takes guts. So applying this to Scott, the PhD student.
His high expectations meant every time he slipped up, boom, more shame, more guilt, less confidence, more stress. It just spiraled.
So the advice is, what? Just stop beating himself up.
Basically, yeah. Take 5 seconds, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and actively choose to forgive yourself for falling behind, for letting people down, for not being perfect up to this point.
And understanding the real reason, the financial stress, not being lazy, that helps too, right?
Yeah.
Lets him redirect his energy.
Absolutely. Allows him to start asserting control toward his goals again, which leads right into step 2. What would the future you do?
Okay, tell me about this one. Future you.
Also from Dr. Pickel's research. This idea of your present self versus your future self. Who you are now versus the person you're aiming to become.
Right.
The research apparently shows that picturing that future you clearly.
Yeah.
It gives you some objectivity, helps you push yourself to make better choices right now.
How does that work?
Well, you mentioned studies, like showing people digitally aged photos of themselves,
Huh.
made them save more for retirement.
Whoa, seriously?
Yeah. It connects today's actions to that future outcome. It's kind of like using a vision board mentally, a coping mechanism for today's stress focused on tomorrow's goal.
Okay, so for Scott, he needs to picture Professor Scott.
Exactly. Create a really vivid mental image, maybe even a physical reminder of himself after grad school, after this intense stress is over. Successful, accomplished.
And then, when he feels like avoiding work.
He asks himself, what would Professor Scott do right now? It creates that little bit of distance, that perspective.
Okay, forgive yourself, picture future you. But then there's the gap, right, between thinking about it and actually doing it.
And that's step 3. Get started with the hashtag 5-second rule.
The action step. This is Dr. Peckel's favorite advice, isn't it? Just get started.
Yep. And the source explains that building new habits, it often needs a trigger, a starting ritual. The hashtag 5-second rule is positioned as that perfect ritual for procrastination.
Because procrastination is basically a habit, right? A bad habit of avoidance.
Exactly. So the rule helps you interrupt that habit and consciously replace it with a new one, the habit of getting started.
So the moment you feel yourself hesitating, drifting towards easier stuff, wanting to avoid the hard thing,
You count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you physically move, you start the task you need to do, even just for a few minutes.
It feels like taking back the reins, doesn't it? That locus of control idea the source mentioned.
Totally. Procrastination feels like you're losing control. Things are just happening to you. Using the rule to start is like saying, nope, I'm in control of this moment.
Daniela, in the source, she said using the rule made her feel empowered and capable, improved her relationship with myself. That's powerful.
And there's brain science too, apparently. The 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 countdown, that effort, it switches gears in your brain, engages the prefrontal cortex.
The planning and decision-making part.
Right. Helps you override the impulse and actually initiate action. And like any habit, it gets easier the more you do it.
C's story really showed that habit formation. Just telling herself, just make the call, finish the stupid job.
Yeah, even when she didn't feel like it. Taking action anyway. That mindset let her finish a huge project she'd been avoiding. Helped her get what I want.
So, back to Scott one last time. He understands the stress. He's forgiven himself. He's picturing Professor Scott.
Now he has the tool. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Push himself to just get to his desk. Work for 15 minutes. Just start.
And if he gets distracted, feels the pull to avoid again.
He just counts again. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Get back to it. The rule is the trigger to get going. Take back control of the work, which then makes dealing with the financial stress feel a bit more manageable.
And it's not just for adults deep in stressful careers. Andre, the 16-year-old.
Amazing story. Use the rule to push past all those typical excuses. Not ready, too busy, not smart
He
enough.
started writing a book at 16.
Shows you, right? The power to own ourselves, take a step, try something, change your life. It's there. You just have to start.
And just starting, the source points out, triggers something called the progress principle.
Ah, yeah. That idea that any forward movement, even tiny wins,
Boosts your mood, makes you happier, more productive. It builds positive momentum.
plus that cool brain thing once you start, your brain actually holds on to unfinished tasks better than finished ones. It kind of nudges you to keep going.
Like an internal reminder system. The author even mentioned their own battle with the snooze button.
Right. Realize it was just procrastination, getting momentary relief from the stress of starting the day.
And they broke it by creating that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 ritual to launch out of bed. Still uses it years later.
So if we bring it all together, the core strategy from the source, using the 5-second rule framework to beat destructive procrastination.
It really boils down to this. Use the rule to make yourself start, whatever it is you're avoiding.
And start small. Don't try to tackle Mount Everest on day 1. 15 minutes, like you said. Take breaks.
Crucially, though, that foundation of forgiveness. You have to give yourself a break for blowing things off until now. Acknowledge you're human.
Yeah. It might sound simple, almost like common sense, eat the elephant one bite at a time.
But the real insight here is about beating the feelings, driving the bad habits. You have to push past that feeling of wanting to avoid and force yourself, gently but firmly, to just get started. That's where the change happens.
It really is.
Yeah.
And the source leaves us with a pretty potent thought to chew on.
Yeah. What's that?
You'll either find a way or you'll find an excuse.
Ooh, that hits home.
Definitely something to reflect on when you look at those tasks you've been putting off. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.